In recent years, there's been an absolute explosion in group fitness coaching. These are virtual groups that people join to help them with their fitness goals, burning body fat, building muscle, improving their health. Here's the truth. They can be extremely effective, but there are some cons. Let's talk about the pros and cons of group fitness coaching. And if it's right for you, I'm going to start with one of the first pros.
Okay.
Yeah.
They can be extremely encouraging. It can be very encouraging to work with other people in a small group of, let's say, many of these groups are like 50 people big.
Well,
And it can really be encouraging to see other people, talk to other people who are kind of going through a similar journey.
it's a sense of community. It's a perfect example of this is the explosion of CrossFit.
Yes.
I mean, I would, of course, they were doing some of the core, most important lifts, and there's tremendous value to that. But really what made them grow to the size they are today is that small community feeling.
Yeah, the
that you got.
buy-in. Yeah, everybody had that accountability, and you step in, it's like, we're all doing this together.
Yeah,
you know?
male, female, young, old, all ages, all sizes, all in the pursuit of being better, bettering themselves, getting healthy, getting fit. And so there's something to be said about that accountability piece.
Yeah, and this what we're referring to is virtual group fitness coaching, and this exploded along with social media, because before social media really became huge, it really wasn't possible to do this, what we're talking about, right? If you had group coaching, it was typically you met as a group. It was like group fitness classes, which I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah.
Because you're working out together and you can't individualize the workout, and we've talked about this many times on the show. But with the explosion of social media, in particular Facebook does this exceptionally well, right?
Yeah.
Facebook groups that you can join where you're with like-minded individuals, you have a common goal. I mean, I belong to a lot of these groups. They're not fitness coaching groups. I belong to a lot of groups where like the topic is economics or the topic is anatomy or nutrition. And it's really cool to be in these groups because you could talk to other people. Many of them are experts or some of them are just interested in the same topic. With group fitness coaching, so many of these are springing up, and you see a lot of trainers use these as a way to work with many people at one time and to provide value. Sometimes these groups are free, but oftentimes they're paid for, and the data actually supports them. So the data shows that when people are working in a group of this nature, that the vast majority of them stay consistent, especially in comparison to people doing it on their own. When people do this on their own, at least one of the studies I saw, over a 9-month period, the majority of people on their own reduced their consistency. I think it was like 75% or more reduced their consistency versus the opposite when people were in a group of fitness.
Do you remember that 24-hour fitness pitch on the phone?
Which one?
So this was, I remember, in fact,
There was a lot of pitches.
shout out to Mark, right? So he was the first person I ever heard say this, but he said, and of course he got it from 24-hour fitness, but they had done a study on if you bring a family member or friend with you, you're more likely to continue going. I think it was 3 times. It was a significant amount.
3 times.
a lot higher
Yeah,
percentage,
the odds were 3 times higher.
Yes, it was. And so he used to have this pitch whenever he confirmed his appointments that, also, do you have a friend or a family member you can bring along with you, because studies have shown that if you, and then he would say that
That's smart.
to try. No, it's brilliant. Yeah. And it had to do with him obviously trying to confirm his appointments, but also get somebody to join with them because he knew they're more likely to continue going, and they were in the business of keeping people going to the gym, right?
It's 100%. And again, the data supports this is having people there, like knowing people are going to miss you when you're not somewhere, or they're going to ask for you, or, even showing up to a group, on Facebook, commenting that you have a challenge or a struggle, and then hearing other people say, I have the same challenge. Like, this is so big. Like, you figure this out, by the way, this is not fitness related, but as a parent, you figure this out when you first have kids, you have these challenges, then you talk to other parents, like, oh, my kid does the same thing. It's really nice to hear that because you don't feel alone, and it's encouraging, and then you get advice, kind of along the way.
It's been interesting to watch. Like you mentioned CrossFit at the beginning, and we're seeing in terms of like physical meetups, like that was definitely, you saw boot camps become a big thing. You saw even with weight loss, with Weight Watchers.
They
There
did
was
this forever.
groups, and
Yes.
it was very powerful. And that whole dynamic is something that now, obviously, it's moved more into the virtual domain because, we've been kind of separated a bit from the whole COVID years. And I think that became more popular at that point because of that. So the Zoom meetings were a big thing. And then now it's the Facebook groups. But it has traces of value, but not meeting in person, there are some deficits there.
I don't think there was that much when we were first starting 20 years ago. But so much has changed in the virtual game, and now there's so many like apps too that complement a service like this. Like you mentioned Zoom, like the fact that I could get on a single call with 50 different people at one time and communicate to all of them is a powerful tool.
Yes.
We have an app that we use with all of our clients where you could have all these clients inputting their nutrition goes right to the coach. So it's not like you have to
you can manage it all.
Yeah, you can manage multiple people all at one time. I mean, MyFitnessPal and these types of apps has made it so easy for the ability of a coach to communicate to lots of different people simultaneously and feel like they're getting kind of an individualized service without exactly working just with them.
Now, along with this like pro, right, that it's encouraging to work with others, it actually comes along with a con that's on the other side of the coin of this, which is you can compare yourself to others. This is when this becomes bad, right? I'm in a group.
It's a trap.
The group is a weight loss. Let's say it's a weight loss.
You're constantly looking at everybody else.
And I'm looking at everybody else's success, and my success is nothing like theirs. And I feel like I'm way behind. It's not working for me. This can confirm a terrible bias I may have, which is it's never going to work for me. My body doesn't work. Something's wrong with me. This is not for me, type of deal. Now, the solution to this con, because that's a very big one, by the way, like this is human nature. It's human nature to compare ourselves to others in unfair ways. This is one of the negatives of social media in general. This is what can happen in gyms. This can happen almost anywhere, but it can definitely happen in these groups. But here's the solution to that, right? If you belong to a fitness coach, a group fitness coaching group, if it has a good leader, a good coach squashes this very quickly, very easily. So, and the way they do this is that they confirm and explain individual variants and they speak to grace. So, when we have our groups, because we do some of these, right? We have group fitness coaching groups. We did one last year.
GLP-1s, yep.
We did one last year. We're going to do, which by the way, that was a great example of what I'm talking about right now. You got all these people who struggle with weight loss, who are on GLP-1s. These were, people who were candidates for GLP-1s because they had a lot of weight to lose and whatever. We're doing a new one coming up soon for people who are going to transform their bodies. So people who've been in shape before, came out of shape, want to get back into shape, right? The way that I coach in a group like this, or the way good trainers coach to a group like this, is whenever you hear a success story, you always need to explain individual variants, and you also need to speak to grace often, because what's part of the formula of the journey of fitness and health is failures. Yeah. There is no journey of fitness and health that is without failure.
Yeah, you can't avoid it.
You're guaranteed to hit stumbling blocks. You're guaranteed to take steps back. You're guaranteed to run into frustrations. And the way around that is grace. The way to kill yourself in that is to shame yourself, continue to compare yourself, and say, this isn't for me. So a good coach in this, and we had this often in our GLP-1 group, right? Somebody would be like, oh my God, I lost 15 pounds. This other person's like, I've been on a GLP-1 and it plateaued and I'm eating 900 calories. And we would always communicate individual variants, why it's different for this person versus that person, and have grace for yourself, because this is gonna happen. You understand that, know that, and if you give yourself grace, get back on, figure it out, you're gonna be okay.
There's key words you actually will hear from a good coach that understands this. In fact, if you go back and listen to almost every interview that we've done with a good friend of ours that is a coach and a trainer, a good coach and a trainer, example, that would be the Brett Contraras's, the Jordan Syatt's, the Jordan Shallows. If you go back and listen to those interviews, there's something that they all have in common, that when we would ask questions about training clients and people, the way they respond is always depends.
It depends.
And that is them calculating that there is this wide variance between all these different individuals, and they know better than to give a direct answer of, it should take 4 weeks, or this is what you should like. And that is so important to communicate, especially in a group setting like that, because exactly what you're saying is like, that is a quick recipe for disaster, is for somebody, because there always will be somebody who has exceptional results. Their body just responds metabolically, they were in the best position when they first started. Their adherence is the best, all the above. And they're just a rocket ship. And then everybody else thinks they're failing because it's not as fast as theirs. And it's like, no, that's not the case at all. In fact, they're the exception to the rule. You're more the rule. You're dealing with the normal stuff that you have to go through this process. And communicating, that's important.
Yeah, what's challenging for some is easy for others. And it's like, it's a frustration there because you get in that comparison, like, well, why is it that way for me? And it's just individual variances. It's challenges are unique across the board, and so if you can't just throw a blanket statement out there, you got to understand who you're working with.
No, and a really good coach will communicate this effectively. A really good coach is going to communicate the challenges. But here's the most important part of this segment, which is a really good coach is going to talk about how, look, this happens. It's going to happen. And that's okay, and creates an environment where you feel safe communicating your failures. So if you're in a good group fitness coaching group, you should very quickly, whoever's leading it, the trainer, the expert, the professional that's leading it, should, within the first session, make you feel at ease and comfortable communicating the fact that you're going to fail. When you feel that way, you know you're a part of a good group. Next pro to being in a group fitness coaching group is that you get some professional advice. Like, that's great. You actually have a leader. So you're part of a group of all these people who are doing the same thing, but there should be somebody there who's leading it, who's the expert. And what's great about this is you can engage with them, you can ask them questions, and they can help. And typically what these group fitness coaching groups tend to do is they tend to offer or do some kind of a weekly or bi-monthly meeting, right? Where you get on there. So you're on a Facebook group, a lot of them are on Facebook, and you're text, you're commenting on with each other and whatever. Every once in a while, the coach pops in. But then, let's say once a week or once every other week, the coach says, "Okay, we're going to have a Zoom call. Everybody's going to get on, and this is our opportunity to talk about what's going on, moving forward, questions or whatever." And you have at your disposal a professional.
Yeah,
there's like a huge benefit to having a professional with something that you're, a journey that you're going on. It's like going on a journey through the mountains, and you have a guide that's going to kind of point the direction. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, I have a free guide that teaches you how to lose fat in 3 steps, just 3 steps that will burn the most amount of body fat and help keep it off. This guide is totally free. We're giving it to everybody right now. If you want it, click on the link at the top of the description below. All right, back to the show.
I mean, I kind of feel, I think this isn't special to training. I think this is in anything, in any pursuit, in any journey in life where you're going somewhere, even if you have some familiarity with that, having a professional, having a guide. I mean,
your oracle.
I'm heading down to a thing tomorrow to this event in LA and getting somebody who's going to coach me through that. And it's like, I know how to drive. I've been driving for 20 something years, but to have a professional teach me on another level is like, it's such a well worth investment. And so I don't care what journey you're on in your life, having somebody who's a professional there to coach you and guide you through that process, it only is going to accelerate the results or give you a better chance at being successful.
Totally. Now the con of this, because it's a group, the advice, the professional advice is not individualized, or at least it's not as individualized as it would be one-on-one, right? Working with a coach. And then, by the way, this is a real con. This is a real downside of group fitness coaching, is that you're in a group of 50 or 100 people or 20 people or whatever. The advice is not going to be as individualized as often as it would be if it was just you and the coach and nobody else, right? Mm-hmm. That's totally true. Now, the solution to this, again, it points to the coach. A really good coach should know how to communicate nuance at every single opportunity. And again, I'll go back to us and when we did our group coaching. Anytime somebody had a question, hey, I'm eating this particular way, I'm noticing this thing, or hey, this exercise hurts me here, or hey, I'm noticing that I plateaued, or my progress is accelerated, or I got stronger, I would help that person on the Zoom call. So we would have these Zoom calls with 50 people on there. They'd ask a question. I'd help them. But I would always make sure, and Adam and Justin would do the same thing, we would always make sure to, after answering the question, communicate all the common nuances that come along with that. So look, although I just answered your question and the way you should start your day is by eating this particular way, Here are the times when that's probably not a good idea. If you notice this, that, and the other, if you can't eat this particular way, if your goal is this, right? I know I advised this exercise for you because this was your goal. Here are the people that probably won't work for. A good coach will communicate in a group nuance at every single possible opportunity because they're aware that they're also speaking to other individuals when they're answering just a single question.
I actually feel like there's quite a bit of a pro for that too, actually, because even though your point is valid that there's a con because I'm not specifically individualizing this statement to this one person, I'm speaking to a group, and so I'm a bit more vague, or I'm talking about the nuances of it. I actually think there's somewhat of a pro for that too, and what I mean is that, you know, sometimes when you're getting started with a client, like you can easily offend or say something that, you know, has them put up a wall. Where when I'm kind of generally speaking, even though and I know you guys do the same thing too. Yeah. Like someone would say something in our group and be like, I'm about to say something, and that's for her. This is for her.
But I'm not going to
direct it at her. I'm not going to single her out. I'm not going to isolate her.
I've had clients in the past.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to the group, but I really am talking to trying to help that person. But then that person's not going to feel like they're being isolated, and so there is
or they may be afraid to even ask the question that someone else did.
That's right. And so then, you know, typically when you get a group with enough size like that, you could be answering a question that is individualized for someone, but then it like registers for like 5 or 6 other people. They're like, oh shit, I'm glad she asked that or he asked that because I want that too. So even though there's a bit of a con to it, there's also a flip to that, or a positive side to that. Of you can address quite a few people and help several people out when even though you think you're speaking to just one.
Totally. Now another pro is that it's far less expensive than one-on-one coaching. Working with someone in person, one-on-one, for example, oftentimes costs you a lot in comparison to group. The con, on the other end of this, is it's still much more expensive than doing it on your own, right? Being and paying for group coaching, group online coaching, is paying for something that on your own you wouldn't need or do. Now, here's the truth to that part right here. And this is true for one-on-one personal training as well, or one-on-one coaching as well. When you look at the return that you get, as defined by actually getting the results that you're looking for and sustaining the results, okay? And you look at the time saved and the money saved at the potential repeated efforts and repeated tries that you would normally do on your own that you've probably already experienced, the money, the investment always pays for itself many times over. Yeah. Fact, period, end of story. Like if you look at the 90+% fail rate that is associated clearly in the data with weight loss, like 90+% of people who lose weight gain it back when they do it on their own. And if you compare that to the data with training or with coaching, and then you compare the time lost, the money lost, and the effort, and all the pain and suffering, and all that stuff that comes along with it, like it's worth it. In fact, there's nothing more worth it in health and fitness than working with a professional. There's no supplement, there's no program, there's no nothing that is as valuable on a dollar per dollar basis than working with an expert, whether in a group or in a one-on-one scenario.
It'd be interesting to see if this it has changed over time as far as the outlook for people on this. Because it's really, I mean, nobody questions somebody who invested 4 years into their college degree and go like, oh, that was a waste. You shouldn't spend any money on that because it's an investment on their education. You know, if you invest in the stock market and its average return is 9%, nobody looks at it as like a waste of money. It's just, but yet we tend to look at investing in your health and fitness as like this luxury. Yeah. But it's like, it's so weird because you could think of all those other things I just listed, that investing in your education, investing in stock, all those things get you ahead financially in life. But it's like, you've also heard from everybody that none of that money matters if you don't have your health. Or you've heard people say, where I'm at right now, 20 something years old or whatever with my health, I don't care if I go make billions of dollars in my future. I would give up the billions just to have the health that I had in my 20s.
That's old, that's a saying, right?
Yes.
There's a saying that like a man will spend will spend all of his health gaining a fortune, and then will spend his entire fortune gaining back his health.
And so what I mean by this, so it's interesting that this, and I don't know if it's like if culture's shifting or the outlook is different for the average person, but it really should be. It should be something that like, at some point, everybody invests in it. Whether you take the time and you invest your time and you educate yourself and get certified and learn and go through schooling so you know about it, or you invest in a professional that teaches you and helps you, or you invest in a group where you can learn. Like at some point, it should be talked about as much or more than all these other things that we prioritize as so important in our life, because all those other things that everybody thinks is so important, none of it matters if you don't have your health.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with this because it's like, you want to make things simplified and you want to portray that like this is a simple process, but a lot of times people underestimate like if you don't have a really good plan, like how hard it is to maintain, how hard it is to get through that psychologically, and to be able to be more efficient and effective with your pursuits. And so to have a coach outline that, detail that, and have a professional kind of guide you through that is so valuable. So you get this tier of like, you get the coach, which is like your ultimate, it's gonna be the most effective route you're gonna take. And then you get the coaching, in a group setting is definitely like the next best thing. And then on your own, but I just feel like the general consensus for people still is that like, well, this is something that I could do myself, when in fact, like they don't realize the value in learning, so they don't have to have all this misguided energy.
Listen, what it reminds me of when we were kids, when I was a kid in the 80s and then the 90s, I was really into martial arts. Back in those days, what was popular? You could buy books on martial arts and learn karate at home, flipping through the pages. And I had an uncle who was a black belt, and he's like, you'll never learn. You'll never learn effective anything going through a book. And I remember thinking, yes, I will. And no, I didn't. I never did. And it's very, very similar. And again, if this is something you really want to accomplish, like there is nothing that's going to provide the results and value, period, end of story, as working with a professional. And group coaching is an effective way to do it. It's cost effective. It's effective. It's virtual, so it's the most convenient. We did our first group last year, and we did it as an experiment. We loved it so much that we're going to continue to do it. And we actually, this year, are investing in another branch and arm of Mind Pump because it's like we saw the value that it brought people. It's like we need to do this. Even though it takes a little bit of our time, we'll pop in and out and add to it. And we have really, really good coaches that run it. It's just the value that we were able to bring people with that is so much more. And for us, we miss it. We miss it because on the podcast, we don't see people, we don't talk to people. Mm-hmm. So we're doing it again. We're going to do, this one is going to be aimed at transformations. If you were out of shape before, or you were in shape before, now you're out of shape, you want to get back into shape. This is for people like that. It's mindpumpgroupcoaching.com, and you can sign up for it. It's limited. They're always going to be limited until we can get more and more coaches that can run these things. But go check it out. It's awesome. I got to bring up a study for you guys on how much exercise you really need to build muscle.
Ooh.
But here's the catch with this, or not catch. Here's the best part about it. This study didn't focus on people who were deconditioned. Oh. It was on experienced lifters. Oh. So typically when you see a study like this, how much exercise do you really need to build muscle? And they look at like people who don't work out. It's so minimal, it's not even funny. Like there was one study where they took people who did nothing and they had them do one isometric contraction. I think it was once or twice a week.
Leg extension.
Like they just squeeze their right? Yeah. And they saw substantial strength gains over a 8-week period. Right, but that's not going to work if you are fit. Like if you work out somewhat regularly, you're like, okay, if I do that, I'll get out of shape because of how I work out now. So this study was actually done on individuals who worked out. And the goal of the study was how little do they need to do to actually build some muscle.
Oh, I love this.
Okay, so this wasn't looking at what was the maximum muscle they could build or what's the most effective amount workout. It was like, what's the least amount they can do, to quote Adam, to elicit, not the most change, but to elicit change. How much will they build muscle if we do this much? Will they build muscle if they do this much? Will they build muscle if they do this much? Yeah. You know what they found? For experienced lifters, okay, 2 days a week, 2 full body workouts, 1 set per body part.
That's it. One set?
One set per body part.
Wow.
1 set.
Wow.
Just to get that initial contraction.
That's it. Wow, 1 set. And they were intense, weren't to failure. They were intense sets.
Sure.
But that was it. So that's literally, if you're currently working out and you want to continue progress and you're like, man, I have such limited time, it's not even funny or whatever, but I still want to,
Jeez.
By the way, if you did half that much, you would maintain progress.
By the way, I just want to highlight why MAPS Anabolic has sold as many programs as it has sold right there, because that's literally it has a 2-day-a-week option, a 2-day or a 3-day-a-week, and it's 3 sets.
Yeah.
It's like more than enough right there. And that's even for a lifter, somebody who's already been lifting.
Oh, people hit PRs on MAPS Anabolic because I think it hits more of that appropriate
and
level.
what did they all say when they first
It's not enough.
No, this isn't enough.
No.
Just follow the program for 3 months.
Like twice
I'd have to say the 10 years we've been doing this, that has been the biggest challenge is just getting people to follow the program.
Yeah.
I mean,
just convince them that
it's convincing them even after they start it.
They're too married to their ritual.
Because they always mistake it. And I love the way Sal communicates it. It's like what your body can tolerate versus what is optimal.
Yeah.
Because I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of measuring a workout like, I could have done more.
Yeah, I definitely could do more.
And thinking that, doing more would equal more result. And that's not true at all. And so people go into a workout like that, especially if you're an advanced or somebody who's been lifting for an extended period of time already, and you just assume like this can't be enough. This is way less than what I used to do, or way less than I feel like I can do. Yet it's the most optimal.
No, so imagine, right? You're experienced, you work out. You're like, I want to keep seeing some gains, right? I'm not looking for the max gains. I'm trying to maximize my time for whatever reason. What's the minimum I can do? You go to the gym, you do a set of one set. Okay, not 3 sets, 5 sets. 1 set of squats, 1 set of bench press, 1 set of rows,
crazy.
1 set of overhead press. I think you're kind of done. You might even throw in an arm exercise and you're done. You're out of the gym in like 4,
and then you do it
maybe 5
one more
sets.
time that week.
Yeah, one more time, and you're gonna build muscle doing that. And this is what the study shows.
It kind of looks like MAPS 15.
Yeah, a little bit, right? Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, it really
that out a little
it's
bit
MAPS 15 just spread out over 5 days.
You know what I love about this? What I love about it is that we because people
was that the Jeff Nippert study the other day?
Yeah,
it was Nippert.
He quoted it. I don't know if it was his study, but he quoted the study.
Oh, okay.
But you know what I like about this is that it's a study, because people, when you often tell them something that sounds counter, unless you have a study, nobody wants to listen to you. Even though we've
seen it in front of your face.
We've trained so many people. We work with so many people. Had you asked me this question, I would have said, if someone came up to me and said, "Do you think a relatively experienced lifter would still build muscle 2 workouts a week, 1 set per body part?" Like, yeah, probably. If their diet and sleep is good, probably.
At least maintain, I would say.
Maintain. I bet you could do half. I bet half 1 day a week.
Yeah.
You'd be able to maintain what you have already built for the most part, unless you're super extreme or whatever. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's cool.
I read another thing. Actually, I saw a video, I should say, on sleep, and the author or the individual speaking was talking about sleep's impact on an athlete's performance, and they were talking about LeBron James.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what a sleep routine looks like?
I mean,
he's hyperbaric chamber. He's
12 hours,
bro.
He invests like millions of dollars a year on maintaining.
You know what's okay? So here's what's crazy about this. People often look at like elite athletes and they look at their workout routines. They're like, I should follow that workout routine, not realizing that the elite athlete is a genetic anomaly anyway. They recover way faster than you do. They're genetic freaks anyway, but also not realizing that that's all they do. All they do is to try to be the best at basketball or whatever. So they have all the time in the world to do all these recovery things. LeBron James, who's widely considered one of the best, if not the best basketball player of all time, right? He takes a nap every day for 2 to 3 hours, and he sleeps every night for 10 hours.
Wow.
Okay? so this guy's sleeping.
Sleeps for 10 hours.
He's sleeping more than my teenage daughter.
Yeah, he's like
on
a
the
teenager,
weekend. Yeah. So every day, 2 to 3 hour nap and 10 hours at night, every night.
I didn't know he was sleeping that much.
Wow.
Yeah. And now, I mean, he obviously performs at a ridiculous level. I don't know about his injury rate. Is he relatively low?
No. Well, so what a lot of experts in the field in the basketball space, as far as your coaches and stuff, say about him, the professional trainers, is that he's evolving the game. Like, as far he was the first to invest the amount he's investing in recovery. Nobody before him, not at that level. Everyone, guys did certain things.
But he's really placed
he's put so much money and energy into the recovery process, and you're seeing it. He's 40 years old, bro.
Yeah.
What he's doing
I don't know.
He's been in the league so long.
He's 40, and he's always
came up from high school.
The top 5 in average points per
Does he-
game. He's
does he have
dunking
a lot
on full. Bro,
Is his injury rate better than what you would think?
Oh, the fact that he's playing at 40, bro, is already that's what we saw with Tom Brady is another example of this. Tom Brady was also one of the first, and they're the way the two of them for their sport have evolved the game more than anything else. Now you could talk about their basketball IQ and football IQ and all that stuff too. That's another conversation. but really their ability to play their sport at as high of a level as they have for as long as they have without
Stay
getting
healthy.
hurt and stay healthy is the way they took care of their bodies.
Wow.
And he's that. So, not to go off on the tangent here, but you're talking about stuff that I enjoy having conversation.
love this.
So there's massive stuff that just happened in the NBA right now. Luka Doncic from the Mavericks, who's arguably top 5, if not top 3 players in the NBA right now. He's a European white guy that can shoot threes. He's only 25 years old. He's incredible. They traded him, which was just like everybody was like, they traded him to the Lakers to go get to play with LeBron. And it was just unbelievable that Mavs gave him up. And there's all this controversy right now. This is literally happening right now this last week. And there's all this controversy. Well, one of the prevailing theories is this. So the Mavs he was up for what's called a supermax contract deal. And you get that after you've played for the same team for a couple of years and you're up for your first contract. The team has the ability to sign one player for like hundreds of millions of dollars for 7 years. It's basically you're locking in saying you're our future.
You're our guy.
We're going to pay you all this money, and he's eligible for it after he's put those years in. By them trading him, they fuck him. First of all, he loses hundreds of millions of dollars because he can't go to another team and get that supermax.
Was it 150 or 175?
$117 million he loses, right? So. And everyone was like, why do they do this? Well, the rumor is because he's 25 years old and he's already had all these injuries.
Oh.
He weighs like 30 more pounds.
They're doing like a risk analysis on him? That's
absolutely right. And they're going, we don't want him. Okay, so then you ask, well, then why did the Lakers take on that risk? Well, guess what? They have the number one guy when it comes to recovering.
Oh, so they can fix that.
So the theory is that they're going, listen, we'll take the risk. We'll take the risk on him because we're going to
mentor him on
We're going to have the guy who takes this more serious than anybody else in the NBA, mentor him and take care of him.
Well, what's crazy about this,
we'll see what happens.
What's crazy about this whole recovery conversation, when you look at the actual data, people like to focus on all these wild and crazy and new tech ways of recovery. If you were to look at the just the landscape of recovery techniques and tools and methods, okay, over here you have sleep.
Yep, number one.
Everything else is way over here.
A distant second.
It doesn't even come close. It's like sleep is 1, 2, 3, 4 to 50. 51 is the next thing or whatever.
Yeah.
That's how big. And to hear them say that LeBron James sleeps that much. By the way, the same video, this researcher talked about how much you improve your athletic performance by getting more than 8 hours of sleep a night. Okay, so if you're an athlete and you compete at a high level, you're you play sports, you do it regularly, like you want to compete better. Getting your performance to increase by 10% is hard. Like if you're playing all the time, improving your athletic performance by 10% is a big deal. And the more elite you are, the more of a big deal. It'd be like taking 30 seconds off of your quarter mile time when you're at the elite levels, right?
Yeah.
Sleeping 8 or more hours a night,
huge.
You will increase your performance by 10%.
You have to say
Crazy.
it. Who got it first right? Who got it right first? The bros. Bodybuilders have been doing this forever. How long have pro bodybuilders been taking afternoon naps for an hour or two and laying and just go prioritizing sleep to optimize recovery and do that.
Getting sun and getting sleep.
He's right. That they have been doing that since the 70s and 80s, if not before that, as
era, right?
a major focus.
Oh, and I read Eugene Sandow. This was a Bronze Era bodybuilding. This was like late 1800s, early 1900s. He talked all about the value of sleep and how much it played an impact. But I mean, it's a big deal. So people are like, okay, well, how do I improve
I also think
it's so understated.
I think timing in so many things matters, right? Just the time of the market, like for anything. And I think LeBron being the guy who has overemphasized sleep, recovery, all those things in a time when distractions and poor sleep is on the rise. Yeah. I think that's part of why you see this gap of why he looks so crazy on so many levels.
Because the other players are like all these other challenges with sleep.
That's right. They're just, it's only getting more difficult for them while he is just honed in on that. Yeah. And I think that's what you see when you look at Tom Brady and you look at LeBron James at their age. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most fascinating. And I know you being a science guy, like you have to appreciate like that is to see somebody at 40 years old, like the way he's moving on the court and what he's able to do and not get hurt is like, that is unbelievable in itself. Hate him or not, like I'm not a fan of a lot of the stuff he says and does, but boy, that's impressive, man. That's unbelievable.
You know who has one of the best sleep supplements is Legion with Lunar. Mike, in his sleep product, his Lunar, he put one of the only times I've ever seen anybody do this. the right dose of melatonin. Everybody else mega doses the crap out of it. Even 1 milligram is too much. You need to be more like half a milligram or less for you to get the right amount of melatonin to give you adequate sleep. The high doses in studies, by the way, for people that don't know, the reason why you see studies with high doses of melatonin for sleep, it's for jet lag. If you want to change your circadian rhythm, that's when you use a high dose. Like I just travel Europe. I want my circadian rhythm to travel faster. Well, I'm going to take 5 milligrams. But if it's for like nightly use, you want a much lower dose. His Lunar product in Legion's Lunar has that, plus the other compounds that help you fall asleep. It's one of the best nightly sleep products. A lot of sleep products are like occasional. His is one of those you can use every night.
I love it too because he put them in chewables.
Yeah.
And not just because of what we've been joking about.
Like candy?
Yeah, because not just for that.
Saves you from getting up to pee.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other great products
nice.
I've talked about for sleep.
You're right. Not drinking water.
But there are pills or powder, and it requires that I drink a thing of water, and doing that right before bed almost guarantees I'm up in an hour after I fall asleep and having to pee right away. And so having a chewable tablet that I don't need any water to take it down is amazing.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you. Look, are you lifting weights, eating a ton of food, and struggling? You're not packing on any muscle. You're not building any muscle at all. You're not getting stronger. Well, check it out. We have a hard gainer guide. This can be your ultimate resource to turn that around. Pack on some muscle mass with our hard gainer guide. It's totally free. You can get it by downloading it, clicking on the link in the description below. Dude, you guys want to hear?
Aside from it tasting like
you want to hear
candy.
something crazy I just read? I'm going to pull it up. I just read this. There's this crazy speculation. There's an article going around and speculation around one of the craziest things I've ever heard, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. So we've seen recently that GLP-1 compounds like Ozempic, Wegovy, right, semaglutide, whatever, that these are the most powerful anti-obesity or weight loss medical interventions that we've ever seen. Nothing comes close. It's so powerful that it has, or they're so effective from a weight loss perspective that they don't have, by the way, it doesn't mean they don't have their own side effects and there's people it's not for, all that stuff, before I sound like a commercial. It's just, we've never seen anything like this, right? They're so effective, in fact, that they have affected the stock prices of companies that sell processed foods. They've actually impacted the sale of certain foods. Clothing manufacturers are starting to change the sizes of their clothing in response. And we've seen for the first time ever, the growth or the rate of growth of obesity, not just slow down, but actually stop. So for the first time in decades, obesity in America looks like plateaued and maybe reversed a little bit. And researchers like, it's the GLP-1s, they're that effective, right? So you gotta think to yourself, right? Something that powerful that works with obesity. And I guess, again, I want to be clear, it doesn't mean it's a pure solution, it's a panacea. But for weight loss, like we've never had something that you do one thing and then it affects you like that, right? Something that powerful, you have a lot of vested interests that probably don't want that to happen.
Oh, yeah.
You have food companies. You have, like, that's a big one. You have drug manufacturers who make blood pressure medication,
Really
diabetes
ones.
medication. It's like this is billions and
this
billions
hurts their industry
of dollars. Well, check this out. So the most hardest hit are these processed food companies. They're actually trying to pivot. They're coming up with weight loss snacks.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do?
Like
they're noticing
little
hits.
shittier versions.
If you look at the stock market, they're losing money. They're like, what do we do? Oh my God, what do we do? Fast food companies, you ready for this?
Yeah.
They're working on GLP-1 RA blockers as additives to neutralize the effects of medicines.
Wait. Let me get this straight.
Wait.
So they're looking at putting additives
In their food.
in my McDonald's cheeseburger so that it basically the signal that the GLP-1 is sending to block my appetite
That's right.
is to block that.
That's
so
right.
then I eat
Neutralizes your GLP-1.
Oh my God.
That's evil, dude.
What would the point be though if you're on a GLP-1 that you would consume a product that had that?
You
Or
won't
is
know.
Are they
or is,
trying
I
to
was gonna say,
sneak-
or is the
sneak
hope
it
that
in there?
people are
They're
naive?
not going to know.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're not going to know.
Yeah.
Bro, that is shady.
By the way, like
can't.
one example of
But
this,
of course
Get
they
away
are.
with that.
Of course.
Of course they are.
They're fighting fire with fire. This is like the chemical wars.
I mean,
who
isn't-
can out, engineer each other?
What is this? Sal, speaking of this, you remind me of two things.
Because remember this, the processed food
That's
industry
dirty, dude.
is a mega powerful industry.
Oh, I had on my notes to bring this up, and I didn't know you were going to go here today. But we were talking about the GLP-1s. you know, and the propaganda wars is crazy that I mean, I get a DM all the time, and the one I got yesterday is this, and it's going viral. This girl is being shared, and it's like a younger girl who went to the doctor and
got osteopenia.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw it.
And see, and it's like, and somebody asked me,
oh no, it causes bone loss.
So someone DM me and they're like, is this true? I'm like, listen, if you eat 500 calories and don't strength train, this can absolutely happen to anybody.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with
has
GLP-1.
nothing to do
Even without the
has nothing to do with the GLP-1. It has everything to do with that person is
Starve
eating,
herself.
eating so low and not strength training. That will happen to you.
That happens to anybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's not like there's something in GLP-1s that does but it's being presented like the GLP-1.
All the GLP-1 doing that.
Eats away at your bone.
No,
it's like,
right.
No. And by the way, again, I want to be clear. We're not like like GLP-1s will fix everything. Solve everything.
It's just informing everybody.
There's pros and cons.
It's a tool.
But this is weird. By the way, I went down the rabbit hole for a bit. I only had a little bit of time, and I'm like, are there any known GLP-1 blockers? Saccharin. Saccharin was an artificial sweetener that they kind of stopped using for a while. Apparently that may have some effects like that. But of course, people don't realize some of the craziest science that goes into chemical engineering, okay, is the science that goes into heavily processed foods.
Yeah.
Like the highest paid scientists who understand chemicals and understand how to put them together to elicit changes in your body, the two places they work are the pharmaceutical industry and the processed food industry. Those are the two biggest industries. That's where you get paid the most. By the way, the processed food industry is so powerful that they completely influenced our food pyramid, our guidelines. Like they're so powerful. They basically pull the strings when it comes to, you know, what's supposed to be healthy for us.
Like, let's put a little GLP-1 blocker in there, and
bro.
Then, dude, let's also put a little meth. You know, let's keep them coming back just a little bit.
Well, what will happen is people will eat it.
Yeah.
And this GLP-1 blocker will just make them crave that food more not realize it. Ooh, I like these.
So how much do you know about the science around the MSG? Like how much? So I'm not that aware of it, although I remember when
it's got some effects, neurotoxic effects. Some people will say excitotoxin. There you go. And so some people really get bad effects from that.
So I remember noticing something. This was years ago. I think I shared it on the podcast a long time ago, briefly. And there was a time. This was when I was living in another house. The drive to work to the studio. I drove by a Chick-fil-A every morning. And I remember starting to eat the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches for breakfast. And they're to die for. They're amazing. And I would eat 3 of those suckers every drive on the way. And I remember talking to Katrina going like, man, I can't remember the last time I felt an addiction to a food as strong as I feel to this thing. Like I was craving it like I never. And then later on, I found out that they use MSG inside their chicken. And so it was interesting that I noticed that first, then I found out about the MSG. So I was so curious to like, how effective is that at causing people to be addicted to the food and crave the food?
The addictive properties
and how is that legal?
Yeah, so the addictive properties of food are not relegated to one ingredient. It's a combination of ingredients and flavor and texture that creates the addictive property, right? So fat is a part of palatability. So is sugar. So is salt. And then so are lots of other things. And when you put them together in the right formula, this is where the science comes in. This is when these engineers, by the way, they all used to work for the tobacco industry.
It's formulas.
They figured out how to put it together. And then that's what creates like sugar. Like if I gave you a packet of sugar that you would put in your coffee, and it tastes good, but it's not as palatable as a processed food that's high in sugar because there's a combination of things.
So are you saying that it's, and maybe Doug can fact
I think Chick-fil-A just figured out how to make their sandwich
that's what I say,
super palatable.
You think it's more that?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's interesting to me because I haven't felt something like that in a long time. No, I remember it was,
you're like, ooh,
it's a wild, like
pulling me.
I definitely
he was turning tricks for
it was wild. Itchy. I mean, it's there's not a lot of foods anymore, and I guarantee there's somebody who's listening who definitely has that feeling where you get pulled to a food so strongly, and it was so hard to not get it. And then once it was out of my life for a while, not a problem at all. Like I mean, it's been years since I've had one, but once I introduced it, man, the pull on that. Do they use MSG? I just want to make sure I don't.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so I thought so.
Okay.
It's a preservative, right? To keep food from going bad.
It's a flavor enhancer.
Oh, flavor
I think.
enhancer.
Yes.
Enhancer.
Those are these words that they use. Flavor
So-
enhancer.
Well, I mean, so then,
Monosodium glutamate? Is that
Yes.
what it is? Okay.
and what is it? Is that all it's supposed to do? Is enhance flavors? Is what?
Yeah, it's used a lot in Asian cooking.
Yeah. Yeah.
They put it in your stir fry.
There's
or something.
debate about it, but the wellness space is pretty anti. And the wellness space, they've been anti forever. They tend to be right. They're not always right, but they tend to be right when they're anti something for a long time. Remember, the wellness space was anti-fluoride. They're anti a lot of things that people were like, you're dumb. And now we're like, actually,
Yeah.
they might have had a good point there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not often that there's something like that where I make a connection and then later on find out there's something like that. I'm like, okay, I feel like
That's how it works. It excites neurons in the brain when eaten. It's a drug. So it's an excitotoxin because I think that what that means is if you excite some of the neurons too much, that actually could cause damage. And so that's the fear, right? That was the fear mongering part of it, I think. Interesting.
Well, I mean, it also, but if it does exactly with what it sounds like it says it does, which is, and they have figured out an incredible formulation that makes the most.
You know what else
amazing
excites your
chicken
neurons? Cocaine. I mean, so lots of drugs do that too.
Yeah.
That's so funny. When they talk
Coca-Cola
about it,
figured that
like
out.
it's no big deal. You know what I mean? That's hilarious.
Dude,
You know-
I got to tell you guys about a scam, and I want to be clear. Like, I fell for this, and it's not something that I had thought like initially, but it was logical to me. I bought this product because I want my dogs to stop barking so much, and I'm like, I'll put the shock collar on. I could do it on the big dog, and I was like, I don't really want it. You can put it to a setting where it kind of buzzes them instead of like hurts them. But then I have like a little wiener dog, and I'm like, that's not gonna work. You can't have it. And so I bought this product that was like one of those sound frequency speakers. And so think about this logically now. Okay, you're buying a product, and it's
trading
proposing
one annoying noise for another annoying
well,
noise.
it's not even that. That would have been
You
another
probably
problem.
can't hear the noise.
You can't hear the noise. So
because
if
only
you can't
dogs
hear the
can hear the
noise
frequency.
and you're a human, then it's immediately bullshit. Because like, how are you going to be able to test that? And it's not working. And so I'm like, wait a minute. They just sold me a box that you plug into the wall.
Did you look it up?
Yeah, it's total bullshit.
It's bullshit?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
It's
So
total
the claim
bullshit.
is that it's a different frequency that humans can't pick up
Yes.
on, but
But dogs
dogs
don't like
can.
it.
This is like the
You
dog
plug it
whistle
in, you're
thing
like,
and-
you just pray that it works.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all it is a box.
Somebody please tell me if this has ever worked for their dogs. I doubt it, dude.
No.
So anyway, I was just like, this has to be like a crazy scam.
I've heard dog whistles before. You can hear them still.
Oh, dog
can still
whistle.
hear it.
Dog whistle is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear that, but like
That's different.
a
A dog
different
whistle is-
frequency.
A dog whistle is different.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. That's
Okay,
different. That's
okay.
definitely
Yeah, I was
different.
like, oh man, I'm such a sucker.
You know, there was this thing that I did once where you listen to these. Maybe you might be able to find a video on YouTube where you listen to different frequencies, and it'll tell you at what age you can't hear a particular frequency anymore. And I did it with my niece and nephew. And they were able to hear things that I'm like, nothing's playing right now. They're like, yeah, you can't hear it? I'm like, oh no, I can't hear it. What's going on?
Yeah, that'd freak me out.
No,
Like,
it's
no.
yeah.
Why am I not hearing this?
Yeah, it sucks.
that's
Hey,
interesting.
earlier we were talking about sleep. I got to bring something up that's really interesting. So this is a common thing that people will complain about, that they wake up and there's a common time. It's like between 1 and 3 a.m. So they'll wake up between 1 and 3 a.m. They don't know why. They wake up and they're up and it takes them a while to get back to sleep. And there's, lots of, Western medicine reasons they'll say why this may be an issue. Maybe you have caffeine intake or this, that, and the other. But apparently, so this is a common complaint I used to get from clients when it came to sleep. And at the time, I had an acupuncturist, and I just remembered this the other day because we're talking about sleep. I'm like, I want something else on sleep. And I looked this up, and I remember her telling me this. She said, now Eastern medicine communicates things very differently than Western medicine, very differently. Like the way that they communicate this is, and they use, energies in the body. and all that stuff.
Meridians and all that stuff.
Yes. So here's what they attribute it to the liver. So they say that your liver is overburdened or struggling, and the symptoms are more irritability and emotional disturbances that make it difficult to fall asleep or wake us up in the middle of the night. And they say it's too much heat in the system. So, and you have more wild and disturbing dreams. So they say it's the liver. You need to work on detoxifying the liver or liver strengthening herbs or whatever. And I had clients that worked with this woman and she cured them. she cured them by giving them certain herbs and working on. So I looked it up. I was reading about it. By the way, Eastern medicine, like if you're a Western medicine individual, sometimes it sounds like woo-woo and like whatever. But I do want to say this, like although some Eastern medicine, quite a bit of it now is backed by double-blind placebo-controlled studies, this is medicine that was practiced for a long time. I don't know, Doug, do you know how long?
Yeah, Chinese medicine, 3,000 years, Ayurvedic, 5,000 years.
Okay, so when it's been
just a little
practiced
while.
for that long, what you have,
It's been around.
you don't have, they didn't use the scientific method back then, but what they did have were an incredible amount of anecdotes. So over time and time and time and time, you start to kind of see what's true and what isn't true. So I hate it when people dismiss ancient medicine methods. I'm not saying they're always right.
I hate the fact that in today's day and age with technology and the ability to communicate all over the world that our doctors don't use both.
Yeah.
Like, why is that not part of the process when you go in and
It's just arrogance.
whether it be a cold or it's something you're trying to figure out you got going on, and the doctor doesn't lay out like kind of all your options. Like, here's some of the things, here's some natural things that you can try and take, see if that makes you feel better. If you don't, I can prescribe this to you that could potentially kill it. And like, why is that not communicated like that?
I think because there's such, they're all of
It's
these.
in their education.
It's a drug industry.
It
That's what
is, but it's also such a broad study that to get your Western medicine, degree and formal education, and then go get your Chinese medicine. And then
So I don't even
it's
think
probably
listen,
so much.
it doesn't even need to be that crazy and extensive. Like by no means are any of us like that proficient at Chinese medicine, but you know enough that when I get a cold, you go like, Adam, take this, and say you don't need to be.
You know what I would
don't
do?
need you to be like that. Like just like the broad stroke would be.
What
good.
I'm starting to see now pop up a little bit are clinics that use all of them. So they'll have like Western medicine doctor.
Really?
Yeah, they'll have, and then they'll have acupuncture. They'll have some Eastern medicine, and then they all, and they all functional medicine
I mean,
practitioners.
I guess that's what Dr. Cabral is, right?
he is.
I mean,
no, he
Cabral-
actually is one of the few people that has those.
Yeah, he's got
I mean,
both,
he came up in the Western medicine and then went over and got all his Eastern, and so he's like the combo. Of
Now,
each.
so what I did, because I'm like, well, I'm going to talk about this. I want to give people a solution. So I went through all of our partners. Do we have any products for this? Organifi does. They have a liver detox supplement with milk thistle, trifala, artichoke leaf, which have all been shown to help the liver, to strengthen the
I didn't
liver.
know they
help
had that product.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you're like, I've tried everything, and I wake up in the middle of the night and I don't know what the hell's going on. I mean, it's inexpensive. It's not. I mean, it won't hurt you.
What's it called?
It's called liver detox.
Oh.
And you could take it and see if it helps with that.
Pull up the bottle, Doug, so I can see it. I actually feel like I haven't seen this.
You haven't?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking him to pull up the bottle.
We had a bottle of it here before.
I mean, I'm sure we do, right? We have
Yeah.
everything, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, we also have a lot of
Liver
stuff.
reset.
Liver reset. Sorry.
Can you pull it up so I can see it?
Yeah, it's called liver reset. There it is, right there.
And it's not a new product, Sal. They've had it for a while.
No, they've had it for a while, right there.
Oh,
Liver
it does
reset.
look a little familiar.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess I've never really looked at
It's
it.
inexpensive. Try it out if that's you. See if it makes a difference. If you sleep better.
Cool.
All right. Last thing I got to tell you guys this. There was this expert on, I think it was on, I don't know what platform it was, but he was talking about the factors that reduce the risk of your child being either abused or abducted, or like what prevents child predators.
No,
Yes.
I'll tell you what you're referring to is not what
This
you
is a
think it
movement, dude.
This is not what you're referring to. An interview that they interviewed the most prolific child abductor ever. I forget
Yes.
the name of the guy, and he was interviewed and asked, "What is the number one deterrent from you picking a child?" Was it sex? Was it age? Was it race? All those things didn't matter. He would abduct all of them except for one thing determined
One
that.
factor.
Their father felt like
Scary.
a threat.
A threat.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
They
what that
have,
A
like-
dangerous father.
Yes. dude.
Yeah, that was something that was a big deterrent.
Were there certain characteristics that you looked for in children before molesting them?
In children, yes, but more I also looked at their families. If I thought the father was a threat, I would not approach the child.
Yeah.
So if you're a dad, like lift weights, man.
Get after it, dude.
Be scary. Be scary.
scary.
It's funny you brought
and-
that. I just shared that with Katrina.
I mean,
Oh,
it makes perfect sense.
I'm like, this needs to be like a whole movement because I'm so on board with this. Is like, just being that something you can actually contribute and control is the fact that you can be big, scary, and dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Just appearing that way.
Well, what does Jordan Peterson say? He says like the Bible says it too. There's a verse of like you having the ability but then refraining is like one of the most like. What is there's a term or there's a verse for that's slipping my mind right now.
But there's an old saying
how important it is for us to be that way, but then also be able to be in control of that, right?
Yeah, there's one saying, it's not a verse in the Bible or anything, but it's like it's better to be a warrior in a garden than it is to be a gardener.
I have that quote in Max's room.
You have that in your son's room?
It's in my son's room. It's in my son's room, bro. It's on his,
of course you do.
It's the first quote I ever framed and put in his room.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's the artisan zoo. That's
oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay. The world's best probiotic is Seed, hands down. They have the best researchers, the best data. They're cutting edge. If you want the benefits of a probiotic, you got to go with Seed. Go check them out. Go to seed.com/mindpump. Use the code 25mindpump. Get 25% off your first month's order of Seed's Daily Symbiotic. All right, back to the show.
First question is from Megs Gardner. You guys are always giving great advice on fat loss, but can we get some rapid fire tips for hard gainers?
Oh man,
I love hard gainer tips.
I was gonna say that's
Adam and I are like, we identify.
Yeah. You know, and just to keep it real with the audience, the reason why we don't talk about it as much as we do is just because there's a smaller percentage of people that struggle. A lot more people struggle with losing weight.
So much so that when you tell someone else you're a hard gainer, usually people look at you like, get out of my face.
Yeah, I remember I trained myself as a trainer to not actually talk a lot about my own personal struggle or journey that way because most of my clients couldn't identify with it.
Oh, what a terrible problem.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I had your problem. And so
I'll tell you, I'll give you the things that made the biggest difference for me and the things that I saw that made a big difference for my clients that were hard gainers. And I did have some, it wasn't a majority, but I did have some. Here's an easy one. And when I was younger, I could do this. I can't do this now because I can't have dairy anymore. But I would literally just tell my clients with every meal, drink a big glass of whole milk.
Yep.
And that would pack muscle on people inside.
I told the football team that, and it was definitely effective.
Oh,
dude, it's so simple.
It's a simple way to add calories and high quality protein to every single meal. It's like, how many calories are in 16 ounces of whole milk, dog? You should look that up because you add 3 or 4 of those in a day.
Yeah, a couple hundred calories
and it's,
per glass.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So
I mean, I have a bunch of stuff for this. I mean, because I remember being a 180-pound personal trainer and then, obviously going all the way up to as high as 250, right? So, and each
you got up to 250?
Yeah, well, 247 naked first thing in the morning. So, roughly.
That's 250 end of the night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I remember every hurdle, right? Like in level. And so I had breakthroughs for this. The first and probably the biggest for me was staying ahead of your calories and like really prioritizing getting my protein intake and my food early.
Yeah.
Because a lot of hard gainers are breakfast skippers or
common.
Yes, very, very common with hard gainers. And then they think they're going to make it. They eat a lot come lunch and dinner, but then they're just behind. They're behind. And most importantly, they're behind on protein. The other mistake I made was thinking that like, because I needed to eat and I was skinny and I would never put body fat on, I would eat anything and everything that I could get my hands on thinking I just need the calories, but then I would fill up on junk calories and not hit my macro targets in order to build muscle. And so actually eating leaner food for the bulk of the day, and then if I needed additional calories, I would add those at the nighttime. In other words,
hit your protein.
Exactly. I'd have my macro goal if I need to hit at least 3,000 calories and 200 grams of protein through whole foods. And then if I still want more on top of that, I'll add the cereal at night or the ice or the treats and stuff like that, or the protein shake or whatever that was all flavorful with peanut butter and banana and everything like that. But I had an easier time because what I found was that healthy whole foods was easily digestible and I could eat again within 2 hours. That really helped me pack on size.
So Doug looked up like a 16-ounce glass of whole milk. You drink 3 of those a day. That's 860 extra calories a day.
Yeah. And how much protein?
Very easy. Oh, I don't know what the protein
was. About 12 per. So
I think maybe more. Look that up, Doug. But you've given yourself high quality protein, good fats, whole milk. If you could digest milk, it's healthy for you. Mm-hmm. Very easy. Here's another one. And this one I figured out later as an adult, but if I knew it as a kid, it would have been amazing. And I've recommended this to people as well. You know, rice is a great source of complex carbohydrates, easily digestible. It's a great way to get them. 16 grams each, so 16 times 3. Boom, you got yourself a nice amount of protein as well. Okay, so rice. Rice is great, easily digestible, best source of carbs, in my opinion, for bulking because you can have so much of it. Cook it in bone broth.
Bone broth, yeah.
And add a bouillon cube for flavor. You've just added 20 grams of protein to your rice. Yeah. And it's rice. It's rice. It's protein rice. That's what you've done.
Still tastes good. Yeah, it blends nicely.
Oh my God. You literally just, instead of boiling it in water, you do it in bone broth, and then you throw some ground beef in that. And that was like my meal for bulking when I figured this out was ground beef, rice, and I would have salsa with it. And then I'd have vegetables that I put a lot of olive oil on. And then I would have that like a few times a day. And that was incredible. Then the next tip I'll tell you is this. Powerlifting tends to put muscle on hard gainers because hard gainers, in my experience, tend to overtrain a little easier. And so when I've taken hard gainers and I've reduced their volume and had them train to get strong, just get strong at squats, deadlifts, and bench, they tend to pack on the size with the calories.
Last piece I'd give, palatable meats. Don't shy away from chicken thighs, ribeyes, tri-tip, sausage. Like those meats, they come with a good amount of calories because the fat, they're palatable, so you can eat a lot of them. That helped me a lot. That's where I try to chase my calories. Like that would get the calorie number up while you're simultaneously hitting your protein target. But I really think that most hard gainers have a hard time staying on top of their calories early, and simply just prioritizing that early in the day made a huge difference.
Next question is from Matthew Norris, 26. How do I tell if a coach is worth the investment if the only option is online?
It's a good question. You know, it's a lot of the same things you look for in an in-person coach, right? So when you're doing your assessment with them or your consulting call, and by the way, if they don't do that, then that's already a big red flag, right? You should be able to get a free consulting call with them. If they're asking a lot of questions and they're individualizing their advice and there's nuance to what they're saying and they make you feel comfortable, they make you feel like they understand where you're coming from, then that's usually a really good sign. If the coach right out the gates gives you recommendations, right out the gates tells you what they're going to do with you and isn't listening to you. Like I have a story about this, like I'll never forget. I had a woman who hired me years ago. She came to me because she went to another personal trainer first. So she was a woman at the time. I want to say she was in her 60s. She was, kind of underweight, like on the borderline of osteoporosis. Went to a trainer, told the trainer what she wanted to do: strengthen my bones, strengthen my body, improve my health. And then the trainer kept saying, "We're going to get you ready. We're going to make you look good in a bikini by the end of working with me." And she was like, "Why do you keep saying that?" I said nothing about a bikini. I want stronger bones. Like that's my main thing. And so she came to me because she was fed up, brought it up in one of her classes. She was a teacher and one of her students used to work for me and she recommended. And she came to me and she was very skeptical. And she tells me later, we became very good friends. The reason why I hired you, Sal, was because you asked me lots of questions and you really tailored your advice, which to me was like, well, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. So I think that's the biggest thing right there. Like, are they really curious? Are they asking you questions? Or does it just sound like they're doing a checklist and just telling you what to do?
Matthew, I would tell you just to email into our team, and then our team will refer you to somebody. We've got over 1,000 trainers that have gone through our certification and course. Many of them are online coaches and trainers. If we have availability with our trainers that are here, then they could potentially do that. So email into us, and if we can't personally help you, then we'll be able to refer somebody.
What are the email?
Email any info@mindpumpmedia.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question is from Jenny.Huseth. I've seen lots of ads for beef organ supplements for women. Is that something good for females? And if so, what is a good reputable company to go through?
You know, a beef organ supplement, like liver, like desiccated liver or something like that, or oftentimes it'll just say beef organs, right? And it's a mix of liver, heart, kidney, whatever. Think of them as a natural B multivitamin. So there's a lot of B vitamins in those. There's some iron, which women, between men and women oftentimes need iron. more so than men, I should say. Not everybody needs iron, but if someone doesn't need iron, it's typically a woman because they menstruate every month.
Gets depleted.
So that's the value of them, is that you're comparing a beef organ supplement to a B complex supplement. Which one is better? Well, B complex supplements are going to have more of, higher doses of the B vitamins. But then people will argue that beef organ supplements have cofactors that you find in the actual organs, and they're natural, right? That's what they're going to say. They're natural. Yeah. Which one would I recommend? Well, if it's general health, I'd go with beef organ. If it's like your doctor's like, you're low in B12 or you're low in B6, go take one that tells you exactly how much you're getting.
I was going to say, wouldn't you normally say add 1 ounce of organ meat to your beef whenever you make your beef?
Ground beef or whatever.
Yeah, whenever you make,
that'll do it.
I mean, if you just did that, a couple times a week and hide it and disguise in there, go the whole food ways, that would be number one. And then the second option would be, we have companies like Paleo Valley that have like they
have beef organ complex, grass-fed organ complex.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a reputable company, offer a good product. But I think we'd always go first, try and put it in your food, right? It's cheap. You order it when you go to the butcher or whatever like that, get a bunch of it. And then every time you ground up any sort of beef, bison, any of those things like that, throw 1 ounce to the, 12 ounces of meat that you throw in there. And
you can't taste it and you get really, really nutrient dense. But yeah, women are more likely, because she said for women, and I know why. It's because when you look at B vitamin deficiencies and iron deficiencies, they're higher in women. So historically, beef organ, supplements were relegated to bodybuilders. Bodybuilders loved that back in the day. And women were recommending these things. Also, we have a special in February, MAPS Anabolic and the No B.S. 6-pack formula together. These programs were actually created to be run together. Great for building muscle, boosting metabolism, burning body fat. Get them both of them, for $59.99. You can check them out at mapsfebruary.com. All right, back to the show.
Next question is from Andrew Booth, 31. What's your all-time favorite exercise to perform?
What is your favorite exercise to
Well, your deadlift. We already know that.
People are going to say deadlift because that's my best lift, but it's actually not my favorite to perform. It's the one I'm the best at, but it's not like the one that I love doing. Makes me feel.
So you like one you're not as good at?
Huh? What do you mean?
What are you trying to say?
What I'm saying is that I like deadlifts. I'm good at them, but it's not my favorite to perform. My favorite ones to perform are the ones that make me feel really good afterwards. Like pull-ups tend to do that to me. Heavy carries tend to do that for me. And then, this is the bro coming out here, but like arm exercises, right? I just like to pump. That I get from them. Those are my favorites. Sure. But deadlifts, I'm good at them, so that's why
I feel like we've answered this before, and I feel like if I were to answer this just in the 10 years we've been doing this, if you asked me every year once, I'd probably different answer.
Yeah, that's true.
So I find like whatever period of life I'm in at that time, like I'm into something and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm liking it. I don't think I've ever had if you go all the way back to when I was a teenager, I would say like bicep curls when I was a kid, but I'm far from that. In fact, I skip them all the time, rarely ever do them anymore. So
is there a lift you look forward to when you work out? You're like, oh yeah, I love doing that one.
No, there's really not, because especially me, I suck at almost all the lifts. Right, I'm the one who's in the middle with you guys. Like I'm not good at anything. Like there's nothing.
You're good at everything. What are you talking about?
I'm
You're not great at
I'm average at everything. It's terrible.
You're
bro.
good at all of them.
Yeah. I'm just fucking. I'm not great at anything.
Yeah, but you're good at all.
So I'm pretty good at everything.
Captain America.
I'm fucking average. I'm average across the board. So nothing excites me like that.
I'm gonna challenge you.
Okay,
how about if I change the question?
Okay.
Is there a machine that if you see in the gym, you got to go do? I know there are for you. We've talked about them before.
What is it?
Oh, the pullover machine, Nautilus pullover.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I love that machine.
Love that.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably easier as an answer, like machines.
Yeah, because there's some machines I just love.
Yeah, no, and you don't see that often, and so if I see it, I'm going to go do it right away. But like a specific lift, I can think of times where, I was really in the overhead press, and I'd say right now one of my favorite moves is just a squat, because complete transparency. I've been working out very little, but what I'll tend to do is like at least squat. And it's crazy. I feel like if I just kind of squat,
Keep everything
I
good.
do keep quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? Like I obviously don't look like best form of me, but the squat is such a complete movement that and stimulates the body so well that like just doing 3 to 4 sets of squats once a week, like actually kind of keeps a decent amount of muscle on me. And so right now I really dig that I can get away with kind of just doing that and, you know, keep relative good strength, lower body, especially a little bit of upper body from that. But
you know, it's one machine that relatively recently we started using and all of us fell in love with.
Viking press.
The Viking press. Yeah, the Viking press is sick.
Oh, that feels
I love
good.
using that. Yeah. I mean, I definitely shift around with preferences, but like, cause in high school it was bench and then it was dips.
Were you always good at bench?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right
that
out the
was
gate.
just something.
Were you a one plater right out the gates?
Yeah.
What a piece of crap.
Bro, it
you
took me
are.
till my 20s till I saw a plate. Bro.
One plate right away.
Bro.
Yeah. I went up quick with that. It was, cause we went in groups when we trained with the football team and I was sort of in the skill position groups. And so I quickly got out of that into, you know, linebackers, running backs, and then went out of that and I ended up training all with the linemen because I could hang mainly because of the bench, like in the squat too. So, and then that became my next favorite was the squat, the backload squat. And then I got back into like Olympic ring training, and then it was Olympic ring dips, which is still one of my favorites to this day. Now I'm trying to come back to overhead press and push press to be specific. And so I'm trying to put all my eggs and emphasis there to bring back that strength. So yeah, those are definitely more of a pusher. I'm not a real big fan of deadlifts and, but
you like
carries
cleans.
I love.
You were clean.
Oh, I would clean. Yeah, that was a big one.
You know what's crazy is that you know I know you guys relate. Like when you've been doing this for so long that that you can look at a machine, never have used it, and go, oh, that's gonna feel good.
Oh yeah,
I've seen that recently. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I've seen Brian Shaw use it, and all these big strongmen use it. It's you're standing up and you lay back on a bench, and it's a standing chest press. Have you seen them?
No, not like that.
So you're standing, and you're putting your back up against something, and it's a standing chest press chest press.
Interesting.
If you see it, I guarantee you're
kind of interesting that
would feel great.
Like that hasn't. Yeah, just knowing that it's kind of interesting.
Oh, here it is. Look at this. It's like if I see this in a gym, I'm doing that for sure.
Why do you think they didn't make those initially like that?
Because it's a machine. You have to have like a lever. But you're right. Like I feel like we could have.
Yeah. Like why have we done those laying down for so long?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I hate laying down. I think that was the one deterrent from. I liked incline bench. I moved to that quickly.
Yeah.
Even to me, it makes sense because it would take up less of a footprint too. Instead of it being a long, it goes up.
Well, because of the lever, it actually does take up a big.
Can't take up more than it being long.
I don't know, Doug. Pull up that picture there on the right with the blue shirt.
No way it takes up longer.
Click on that real quick.
Than a bench laid out.
You click on it, get smaller? What's going on?
That wasn't helpful.
Yeah, to the opposite of what we're trying to do.
Freaking Google.
Yeah, but I mean, you can kind of see it. Doesn't that look like it would just feel amazing?
Yeah.
To do a chest press in that position? Yeah, I just saw a video of Brian Shaw doing it
for
with
sure.
and he was like hitting like some record on it, but I don't even know what's a lot of weight. Oh, look, you could buy one.
Oh, cool.
I would get that. Of course. How much does that cost, Doug?
Oh boy, it says request a quote.
Not your budget.
Request a quote.
request a
Get on the
quote.
phone with our
We know what that
salespeople. We'll determine the price. All right, I know you like that episode. If you did, check this one out. 30% body fat. For men, this is way too high. This is actually a bit high for women as well. So in today's episode, we're talking about how you can go from 30 to 10. What is 10% body fat? This is when you have a visible six-pack. Can you go from 30 to 10%? Yes, it's possible, but not if you guess along the way. So we're going to talk about how you can do that in today's episode.
Now, there's a huge range, right, of like body types.
Yes.
Some people can run a little bit heavier or a little bit higher body.